So good evening and welcome to this live with myself, Saj Hussain. I'm here every Monday evening at 8:30 p.m. to answer your property investing questions. So if you've got a question around property investing, make sure you put it on the comment section on whichever platform you're watching on. So whether that's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, whichever platform you're on, make sure you pop a question in there and I'll do my very best to answer that for you this evening. So I've been investing in property for about 15 years. I've been in business about 30 years, working for myself, and a huge amount of knowledge and experience, and happy to share that with you. I have to put my hand up and say, look, I don't know the answer to everything, but I have a lot of knowledge and experience I'm very happy to share with you. So I said here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. to answer your property investing questions. So we've got a few questions I can see that have already popped up on the messenger box, and I'll start with those. And just put your question into the chat box, or if you just want to sit and listen as well, I'm very happy for you to do that too. Just let me know you can hear me loud and clear, and then we'll get started. So we'll go with our very first question in a moment. So first question is from Jamie S on YouTube. Hi Saj, are any of your projects on your Big Property Group website up for sale? Yes, Jamie, we have two types of projects. I think we just need to mute the microphone on that one. We may already have done that. Apologies for that. So we have two types of projects that we have on the website. One are HMOs, which we convert generally from family houses into HMOs. Those ones we keep. We have no intention of selling HMOs. We think they're cash machines. Once you build them, they're up and running. It's not something you want to sell. And then we have properties that we create with the intention of selling on. They're either renovated houses or we're building houses from scratch. So those are the two types of projects that we primarily do. We're also looking at some commercial residential projects as well. But the ones that are specifically designed to create as a family home, those are the ones that we sell. So I hope that helps, Jamie. I hope that answers your question, and we'll get our next question on in a moment. Obviously, this week with the lockdown, everything going on, we've got some interesting times. We've got some interesting things that we'll be facing in the property market as well. So the housing minister has said that the property market will continue to function, operate. So we believe the estate agents, letting agents, people in construction will all carry on and continue to operate. And I think it'll be an interesting time for us to see what happens. One of the most important question is the furlough, is the lockdown scheme going to carry on? Is lockdown even going to carry on beyond 4 weeks? So is this just the beginning, or is it just 4 weeks? Short and sharp, and then we'll see what happens. So obviously these things have an implication on the property market. People are not going out looking at property. Some people are not sure whether they'll kind of hold off what they were going to do around property. And other times it can be that all this gets built up, and it suddenly will change when lockdown is lifted, which is what happened early in the year in the property market. So let's get our next question up on screen, and then we'll continue from there. Remember, if you've got questions, put it in the comment section on whichever platform you're watching on, and I'll do my very best to answer that for you this evening. So next question is from Haz on YouTube. Hi, Saj, there's a plot of land that I think I might be able to get planning. What I would like to know is how much would it cost to pay an architect to get a planning done? Haz, unfortunately, that question is a little bit like how long is a piece of string? There's a bit more information. It's for 1 bedroom detached, assuming other assessments are needed, e.g. environmental, etc. Just a drawing done, thanks. So, it's quite difficult to give you an exact answer. It really depends, first of all, the type of person you're using. For example, if you're using an architectural technician versus a REBA architect, they both charge you a different level of fees. If you're wondering what's the difference, so it's thinking about maybe a chartered accountant and a bookkeeper. And that's probably maybe been a little bit disrespectful to some architects, so it may not be the best representation. But if you understand it from that point of view, one has studied much longer than the other one for their qualification, and one may be more experienced. Maybe not experienced. Let me come back to that in a moment. They may be more qualified, and they might have a more creative vision. But at the end of the day, I believe it comes down to experience. That's the key thing. So, for instance, you could have somebody who's a REBA architect who's recently qualified versus somebody who's an architectural technician who's maybe been practicing for 20 years. And so their knowledge and experience is probably, for me, going to be more valuable than the person who's just qualified. So I think the qualifications on their own is not enough, although that does differentiate prices that you would pay. I think you look at the experience that somebody will bring and also how much detail they're going to be putting into your drawing for you. At the first stage, I would be looking to do a pre-app with Planner, just to get an indication of whether this is something they'd be open to, and some outline drawing just to try and get that agreed first before I get into the nitty-gritty detailed drawings. Because hey, look, the architects will be very happy to take your money and to draw you a very pretty house. But at the end of the day, you want planning to be able to build that pretty house, not just a picture of a pretty house on a piece of paper. So that's what I would look for. I'd look for somebody experienced. And you know, it's going to be a few £1,000s I'd be looking to allocate to try and get through this process. As I said, there's many factors to consider. It's a little bit like asking how long is a piece of string. So unfortunately, it's difficult to give you an exact answer, but they're the couple of things that I would look for in terms of trying to find the right person to do that for me. Depending on where you are, if you're somewhere in the West Midlands, you can just ping me a message and I'll try and connect you with a couple of the people that we use and see if they can help you. So next question we'll get up on screen in a moment. And remember, whichever platform you're watching on, we'll do our very best to try and answer that for you. Just pop it in the question section. So I hope you like it, Huli. I'm guessing that's not your name, but that's how you are known on YouTube. I live in London. I would like to purchase a HMO in Liverpool as they are cheap, but I don't want the hassle of phone calls of things going wrong in the property. Can this be achieved? If yes, how? So Huli, first thing is with regards to it being cheap, it might be cheaper in comparison to, say, for example, what prices might be in London, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's cheap. So I would probably park that and I would look for words like what's the return it's going to deliver, the return on investment versus how much you're putting in versus how much you're gonna take out of that property. So for example, let's say you're purchasing something you know, up north. I'm just going to use some random numbers for £200,000, and you're generating a £50,000 income on that. But you could be purchasing something in London, for example, you know, down the south at 400,000, and it's 100,000 income. Well, actually, they're the same. There's not a huge amount of difference in terms of what they're doing. So you need to look at your cash and cash return and also potential longer term capital growth, because sometimes you can get HMOs in very good areas that rent really well, but they're not necessarily the best areas in terms of social demographics and capital growth over time, but they cash flow quite well. So you may not necessarily get the capital growth. So for example, in Birmingham and down the south side of Birmingham, we tend to get better capital growth than we do on the north side of the city. So it's taking these things into consideration, but to focus on your question of whether it's possible to effectively do it as in a hands-off kind of way, I think ultimately somebody has to take care of it. HMOs are more work. So you either need to build the systems and the processes to manage it. And for one property, that may be a lot to do. If you're going to have several properties, you can build a system of processes. Alternatively, you need somebody on the ground that can help you be able to take care of it. So one of the things I would do is I'd speak to letting agents in the area that you're looking to purchase property in and see what kind of services they can offer you. And also then speak to other people, other landlords that are using those agents to see how well they are performing. Because let's face it, you know, they might be delivering a great service, but when something goes wrong, that's when you really test how good somebody is in the delivery of their service, what they do when things don't work out. So for example, what if you've got a tenant that's not paying rent? What's the process there? What if you've got two tenants that are getting into an argument or fight, they're not getting on, and there's issues in that house? What if somebody is living like a complete animal and making a mess everywhere in that property? Having said that, some animals are very clean, they don't make any mess at all. But you get my point. If you get someone very messy in a house and that's disrupting everybody else, how do you deal with these things? Because these are what HMOs are about, managing several people together. And it's when things don't work, you wanna see what they are like in terms of being able to do that. And if you get the right people in place, yes, to some extent, you shouldn't be getting all these calls and messages, because you can explain to a good agent that certain things you want them to do and report back to you, as opposed to asking you every question. So for instance, if your agent rings you up and says, there's a leak in the kitchen from the bathroom above, what would you like us to do? For me, that is not a great agent. What the agent should be doing is agreeing with you beforehand. For example, look, if there's repairs that need doing up to £150, we'll get them done as and when they happen, and we'll just report back to you at the end of the month with an update or as that job's been dealt with. or in an emergency, we just deal with the repair for you at the best price we possibly can. And, you know, if it's something bigger, a bigger repair, we'll come back to you and ask you, you know, whether you want us to get a couple of quotes or how you would like to deal with it. So the agent is being proactive and coming back with meaningful information rather than just a general asking questions, because all you're doing there is adding another layer in where they're not actually doing anything. So I hope that gives you a few ideas and things to think about. But ultimately, yes, it is possible. We manage properties in Birmingham for a number of people that don't live in Birmingham. We manage their HMOs, and we think we do a very good job of that. So I'm sure there's other agents in Liverpool area as well. In fact, I have a very good friend who had a HMO agency that he sold there. So if you get stuck, ping me a message. I'll try and find out from him who he recommends speaking to there as well for you. So we'll get the next question up on screen now. Ina Kokizi, I'm so sorry about pronunciation. I am terrible at pronunciations. On YouTube, this is a question is, hi Saj, I'm in the process of buying my first HMO in Liverpool. That is not completely ensuite. It's 5-bedroom HMO. Would you buy a HMO that's not all ensuite? So great question. So Liverpool seems to be very popular this evening for HMOs. So I think you have to ultimately think about who is your client, who's going to be living in that property, what expectations do they have. And the other thing that I believe that's important that I'm all banging on about is you have to think about future-proofing your asset. Your investment is a significant investment that you'll be making, you know, 100, 200, 300, 400,000 pounds of investment that you'll be making into something that's going to produce an income for you. So you want to know in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's still going to be a good investment producing a good income for you. So a few years ago, we took the decision that any HMOs that we're producing going forward is ideally to have ensuite rooms in those properties. So it's probably the odd one or maybe two properties over the last few years that we've done that don't have ensuites, but pretty much everything we're doing has ensuite rooms. And that's because I believe in a few years' time, you know, the expectations will be higher from people in room rentals. And so if you've got better quality accommodation that still is attractive in the future, then that's always going to help make sure your property still rents well in the future, not just now. So if I think about the time when I was at university, a very, very long time ago, at that time, you know, we would be very happy with a very modest home that I shared with 3 other people, or 4 other people, 3 or 4 other people, and we just call it our student digs. But now if I look at some of the student accommodation, it is very different to how it was at that time, because the expectations are different now. You know, we're in a different era now. I sound like a dinosaur now. And in the same way, I think about who is our customer going to be, who's our client, our tenant going to be in years to come, and what is their expectation going to be. So if a property is cash flowing really well, you're buying at a good price, yes, I'd consider buying a property without ensuite rooms, but with the intention of maybe doing an upgrade in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whenever it needs to be. But at the back of my mind, I know I'm going to have to put some money in that property to make it more competitive going forward. So the rooms need to be big enough to be able to accommodate the ensuites as well. So these are factors I would think about. I hope that helps there. So let's get our next question up this evening. I'll try and speed this up because I think we've got quite a few questions. So this is on LinkedIn. This is Abdul, and I think this question is for IDAS. Is where did you get that sofa from? I like it. So it is a really nice sofa, isn't it? IDAS in our office got this organized. I'm not sure where we got it from. Do you know where you got it from? Oh, it's from IKEA. There you go. And it's about what, 700 quid, 800 quid, something like that. There you go, 700-800 pounds from IKEA. So that was a nice, quick, easy answer there for you. So next question is on YouTube from Amr. It's, hi Saj, do you have any advice on how I can go about finding JV partners in Manchester? I'm a competent and qualified completion of plumbing, gas, electrics, bath and kitchen. Yeah, so Amr, essentially what you're saying is you're very skilled in doing the hands-on work or creating the house. So essentially, I'm making an assumption here, but maybe like an all-round builder, so you can create the product. Now, when we're looking for somebody to work with us, essentially what you'll be looking for is, I'm assuming, an investor, somebody who's got the cash, who wants to put the cash in the project with you so that you can go and do the work and you can share the profit. So the way to think about this, Amr, is think about what value are you going to bring and how can you articulate that value? Because one of the mistakes I see people making around this area is they undervalue what they're doing. So I talk about, I use my time, skill, and experience to find fantastic property investment opportunities, and then I partner with people who've got the funds to share those profits and the rewards. So when I'm doing that, what I'm saying is essentially, look, I do all the work, I do the hard work, I find the opportunity, I turn it around to a profit, I make the money from that. And what I'm looking for is a partner who's just effectively going to be a banker. They're going to fund it, they're going to bankroll the project, and we'll share the profit. Now, sometimes you'll get people that will have the cash and they'll say, well, I'm putting all the money in, so I should get a bigger slice of the cake. I should get, say, 70% of the profits because it's my money that makes this deal work. Personally, I think that's not true. That's not the case. And what my job in that situation is to do is to get them to understand that, look, if I'm the one that's found the deal and I've got the skill to convert that deal into something that's going to be profitable, the reality is there's no shortage of being able to find the money. There's plenty of people that are going to want a piece of that cake, a slice of that cake, to be able to benefit from as well. So it's about, if you've got very good deals, you don't really have to worry about finding the money. The money will come and find you. But people need to be aware of what you're doing. So that's the first thing I would say is really important, that you're able to articulate that you're the one that's bringing the value. You're finding the property, you've got the skills to convert it and get it up and running. They're essentially acting like bankers to fund the deal for you. So, whatever you feel is a fair and proportionate return, you work that out and negotiate that between yourselves, but you're ensuring that you're getting paid for your value. Then the other thing is that you want to be able to let people know what you do. You share what you're doing, and that's how people can start conversations with you. If people don't know what you do, then they can't actually start these kind of conversations. So for instance, you've been doing this for a while, you might already know a number of landlords, you might be doing gas and electrical certificates for them, for example, or you might know other people that have got funds. If you've got an opportunity, you've got a project or deal that you can find, you can go and talk to them, but you need to be able to analyze and present the numbers on how the deal is going to work and how they are going to benefit by working with you. So, I think you're in a very, very good position when you are looking to work with other people and other people funding deals with you, because you're bringing skill to the table. And sometimes when people are starting out, they don't necessarily have any skills, they don't have the funds. It can be much more difficult, not impossible, but more difficult. But here, I think it'd be much easier for you. So I hope that helps you with that, Amma. And we'll get our next question up on the screen. So the next one is on LinkedIn from Michael. Hi Saj, how do you identify development plots that may not be on the market, and is there a strategy that you would use to make the deal? Strategy you would use to make the deal. I think I read that correctly. I think I understand what you're saying. So Michael, yes, the tool that we use, and there's a couple of different tools. The one we use is Nimbus Maps, and that's a tool that allows you to, it's a little bit like Google Maps, but it has lots of overlays on top of it that helps you identify where plots are, the sizes, what planning history there's on them, who owns them, and you can link through various other sites, for example, connect to land registry, pull down the data of who the owner is. So first of all, you've got to be clear in terms of what you're looking for. Otherwise, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But with a tool like that, what you're able to do is identify something that fits your criteria. And then it's really a marketing exercise. And what you're doing, you're writing letters to the owner of that property and say, hey, look, I'm potentially interested in purchasing your property. If you'd be interested in selling, please give me a call. And if you're not interested in selling, but you'd be open to maybe some kind of partnership arrangement where we can add value to your project, then of course, please also give me a call too, and maybe we can have a chat, take it from there. So it's a two-step process. The one is, well, this is assuming you're clear on your strategy in terms of what you're looking for. So the size of plots you're looking for, the areas. You use a tool like Nimbus Maps to be able to find and identify those. And the second step is being able to market and reach out directly to those owners and start a conversation with them. So I hope that helps you with that. That's the way we do that. And that's the way many other developers find plots and sites as well. So our next question is on LinkedIn from Nick. Hi Saj, will you be taking advantage of the government's new green energy scheme, which opened for homeowners and landlords at the end of September? Nick, I have to be honest, I know very little about it. I've heard little snippets of it. I haven't really had time to look into it. I think from what I heard, there'll be some interesting and beneficial things there that we as landlords can benefit from. I'm not sure if it's primarily suited to tenants that are maybe on some kind of benefits. A lot of ours, the vast majority, I'd say 90% plus, are not in that category. And many of our properties are HMOs anyway. So I'm open to learning more about it. I don't know huge amount about it, Nick. So the next question we've got, which you'll have up on the screen in a moment, is from Dal on Facebook. Hi Saj, I'm looking at buying a single-story commercial property in London. I am potentially looking at adding 2 more stories above. How likely would I be able to gain planning permission in your experience? Well, Dal, I think there's a lot of factors that need to be considered on a project like this. And if you haven't already committed to purchasing it, you could maybe have a conversation around subject to being able to get the relevant approvals that you need so you can do what you want with it. Now, the height of the properties on either side, for example, what else is there, what ultimately you want to use it for, all these things need to be taken into consideration. But the other important thing to remember is in September, there were some changes in planning, and some new classes were created, which also allow permitted development rights or prior approval. Well, they call them prior approval, but they're like an easier version of the planning process. So there's still some hoops you need to jump through, but they're much easier than the full planning application. And that's what I would be looking at right now if I was you, Dal. I'd be looking at understanding which of those PD rights you could apply to this particular building that you're looking at, and work out which is going to be the best route for you. Because in some cases, for example, in some buildings like certain office to resi, you could actually knock the building down, start again using the same footprint, and be higher than it was before, use a basement space as well. So, there's some really fantastic and interesting opportunities that have come from these new rights that have appeared in September. So I'd look into those as well. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, just ping me a message on, was it Facebook, I think you're on, and I'll send you a link for you to have a look at. So our next question is on YouTube. It's Ahmed. Have you found many property entrepreneurs that are aware of marketing avenues available to them? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Ahmed. When you say marketing opportunities available to them, so property entrepreneurs will be of many shapes and guises. For example, somebody could be sourcing property, somebody could be investing in property, they could be running rent-to-rent type projects. It could be a service accommodation business, it could be development, it could be a letting agency, a sales agency. So all of these are different types of businesses in and around property, or what I would say an entrepreneur would potentially work within those areas. And they all will market differently. I think it is really important to understand marketing, because that's what brings business to you. And then, of course, having the skills to be able to sell as well. I think social media is a powerful medium to do that. So, for example, one of the reasons I give up my time every Monday evening to be here to do this and share and help you with this is ultimately, it raises my profile around what I'm doing. It brings more people. It raises the awareness of what I do to more people. And ultimately, that allows people to get to know me, like me, trust me, and maybe do business with me at some point. And that business might be they want some support in terms of mentoring, or it might be they're looking to invest with me. They're usually the two ways that I will help. And so I'd like to think I use marketing in this way. It adds value to others, and also it brings potential clients and business for me as well. So I think if the question is, do enough people do that? I think no. Not enough people do that. And if you're watching this right now, you should be doing the same, thinking about how you can add value. So I think it was Amma earlier from Manchester who mentioned about his property skills and looking for joint venture partners. Well, Amma, one of the best ways to do that is, start a YouTube channel, start showing the stuff that you're doing, you're creating, how you're finishing projects, what type of projects you're working on. And this will attract people to you that want to start a conversation with you. So, I'm not sure if I've answered the right question there, because I'm not sure I fully understood it. But I think, in short, marketing and particularly social media is definitely a powerful tool that people should be using. So our next question is on YouTube from French. Hi Saj, 3-floor house near Birmingham, 3 double and 1 single room. Idea to add a partition wall in ground floor to make 5th bedroom. What that require HMO license, or could it be used as a Airbnb, say? Thanks. So I probably need to ask several more questions to really understand that, but I'll just go with what I think you're asking here. So if it's in Birmingham, then Birmingham is Article 4 now since June 2020. And what that means is that you can't take a family house, which I'm assuming what this is right now, which would fall under C3 classification, change it into a HMO without going through full planning permission. And as soon as you have the fifth person move into the property, then at that point it becomes licensable, and yes, you would need a license. However, if it's outside of Birmingham, because you've said near Birmingham, there's many different boroughs and they have all slightly different rules in terms of how they work. So, for example, Wolverhampton is also Article 4, and Dudley isn't, for instance. And then with licensing, it's generally the same. Once you've got the fifth person moving, I say generally, but it's because you need to check with the local borough. Once you've got the fifth person moving in, it becomes licensable, and you need to comply with all the regs to be able to get the license. And if it's an Article 4 area, as soon as you've got the third person moving in, you would need to have applied for planning and received planning before that third person can move in. So I hope that helps with that. Next question that we have is from Jason. Oh, Jason, I haven't seen you for ages. I hope you're well. On Facebook, hi Saj, hope you are well. Your experiences over the last 12, 13 years, how much do you think property prices will drop in the next 12 months? Jason, this is a really interesting question, and one that I'm having regular conversations with people, and also to get their view. I was being interviewed by a friend today for his podcast, and I've known him probably 10 plus years, 10, 12 years, and we were having a similar conversation. What's going to happen? It's difficult to predict. And my view is, if I roll the clock back, say 6 months, and when we were locked down at that point, and I said, look, it's not looking good right now for the property market. It's very likely, come towards the end of the year, the market may have even crashed or could be crashing. But obviously that hasn't happened. The market is very strong, it's buoyant. And the reason for that is because there's so many variables that are at play here. And any one of those can completely impact what happens to the market, the property market in particular. And I think, regardless of your choice of political party, this government has been very, very clever in preventing the property market from crashing out. So, they've got a huge amount of support that they've done, furlough schemes, bounce back loans, CBIL loans, grants. Then you've got stamp duty holiday. All these things are stimulating the market and keeping it moving forward, because it's probably, for most people, it's the single most highest value transaction that they will do in their life, which is purchase their home. And it has a lot of knock-on effects as well in terms of the economy. So if the government can keep the property market moving and prevent it from crashing out, it has a big effect overall on the economy. Now, Boris also announced at the Tory conference a few weeks ago the introduction of potentially 95% mortgages for first-time buyers. Now, we have a variation of this called the Help to Buy scheme, which is essentially just for new properties. So the properties that we're building, we're selling at the moment, we're registered as a Help to Buy partner there. But whereas this new 95% mortgages will be for existing properties, they're not having brand new houses. So all these things will stimulate the property market, keep it moving forward. So another thing the government could do, they've talked about March, where the stamp duty, I was just thinking, was it March or April, the stamp duty holiday would finish, but it's very likely it may get extended. March, it's very likely it might get extended a little bit further than that, but they're not going to tell us that at this stage because they want us to keep rushing and getting things done. And as we get closer to the time, they may extend it a little bit further, as they've done with the Help to Buy scheme for many, many years. So I think it's an interesting time. It's really difficult to predict now. I really wouldn't want to call it out. What I would say is that we're in interesting times, we're in times of change, and what you need to be doing is looking for opportunities right now as they present themselves, and continuously be looking for opportunities. As the market changes and in terms of what's going on, you need to make sure those opportunities are still good opportunities. So the way I say it, what we're looking for right now is very, very good opportunities as opposed to just good opportunities. Because if the market turns, that means that we're safe and that we have a little bit of a cushion there as well. So I'll take one last question because I think we're running over. And this question is from Saj on LinkedIn. Great name there. I think I've said that before to you. Hi Saj, I'm finishing off my first new build project and have purchased my second site. Do you think it's still a good idea to start another project given the current climate, and is there any particular development funding companies you would recommend? So with development funding companies, I think they're much, you build a relationship. The rates will be very similar in terms of what you get, as long as you've got a good deal. The funding is not that difficult to access. It's getting the deal that's right and the numbers that stack. But the first part of your question about, is it the right time? And I say, I'm looking at sites as well, but I'm being exceptionally cautious. Most of what we do is using other people's money. So I'm always cautious and making sure that we can deliver a profit and return people's investment that are with us in our projects. So, as we were just talking about right now, we don't really know what's going to happen in a few months' time. The next 3 months, 6 months, next year, what's the market going to look like? And when we're doing new builds are not something we turn around, knock out in 6 weeks. Often these projects will take months and months. It could take a year to do. So what you need to be thinking about is when you come to start exiting out your project, what's the market going to be like at that particular point? And of course, depending on whether you're keeping the properties or whether you're looking to sell them, you need to assess what's happening in that market right now and how it might be different. So for instance, if you're selling, you need to see what is the market like right now for that particular type of property that you're looking to create. It's quite active, it's buoyant, it might be lots of comparables right now, but how might the market get affected if there's a slowdown and a crash? And how much of that can you sustain and still be okay? And how long can you sustain that for? On the other hand, if you're looking to build and keep these properties or build to rent, or it's also known as, and then that way you need to think about your exit is going to be some kind of refinance with one of the commercial lenders on that site. But then you need to look at what sort of rates they're currently doing, what sort of loan to values they're doing, and what are they considering or seeing as market value now versus what could happen in, say, 6 months or a year's time. It could be that the loan to values have reduced. It could be that the value itself is reduced as well. And it could be the rates are higher. So all these things could have a major impact on how you're executing out of that deal. So I think the key message there, Saj, for you is that you need to have some safety nets by having alternative plans, plan B, plan C's, alternative exits out of that deal. And as long as you have those, or you're okay with tying up money for a little while, then I'd say, that's fine. You can do that. But if you are cutting it very fine in the sense that your profit margin is quite tight and you can't afford for things to change too much, or you can't afford for the market to slow down or for rates to increase or something like that would have a massive negative impact on your deal, then I would not rush to do that deal right now. I'd probably slow down and wait. And, if you're doing a bigger project, you start in 6 months' time and it takes a year to build, a year and a half, it could be 2 years by the time you come to exit. And then even if we do take a little bit of a downturn, personally, I think we might be coming out of it by then. So I think these are the sort of factors I would think about and take into consideration. So hope that answers your question there. So I know there's many questions we still haven't got around to answering just yet. As I said, I'm here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. to answer your questions on property investing. Make sure you get here nice and early, put your question in early. And I've also got the YouTube channel, which I have 3 videos a week on there, again, to help you get further faster in your property investing journey. So it just leaves me to say thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again here next Monday at 8:30 p.m.